Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. Here we are in October. I cannot believe we are done with September already. Barely knew you, September. Get the hell out. Alex Navarro, how are you? It was humid. It was a humid September. It wasn't fun. It wasn't
No,
fun
it was
September.
wet and damp, and it sucked. Yeah. And now the October surprise is October is here.
No, the October surprise is Patrick is here.
Yeah! Oh. I didn't want to tease it, but yeah.
Yeah, hi, Patrick.
Hello, welcome. Thanks for having me back.
He has a last name, just in case anyone doesn't know and doesn't has followed all the trials and tribulations of Giant Bomb. This is Patrick Klepek of Remap Radio.
It's true.
Let's do the rundown, Patrick. Let's go. Yeah. Let's do it. Patrick
Name everywhere
Klepek,
you've worked.
Yeah, that's right. Start at the beginning. Start at the beginning in the games industry, which I feel like is pretty close to the beginning for you.
Gamers Online with a Z.
Okay.
I believe it was, that's where E3 1998, Atlanta, Georgia, where I met Brad Shoemaker for the first time outside of a Duke Nukem Forever booth. I worked there.
But you had known him online, yeah?
I had known him, yes.
From the IRC?
From the IRC.
Yeah.
And then I worked for a website called SegaNet. For a period, was a guy online named Loggy. That was also from the IRC scene. Shout outs to the people on this listening to this podcast to know who Loggy is. But and then there I went to Gaming Age Online, which was Gaming Age Online, also known as GAF.
I have heard
from
of it.
there, you get NeoGAF, which became the popular forums, which then these days is a splinter between a couple of things, including Reset Era. I was there at Gaming Age Online. That's when I started freelancing for the Ziff Davis publications, like EGM, because the offices were coincidentally. Because this is how you get a career in video games. You just have to go to the right IRC channel where the editors of magazines are, and then live about 20 minutes from those offices, and those people become your friends, and then help you get your entry into a career. It's an easy 1, 2, 3 step process.
1, 2, 3. We have a question later on. Wasn't going to take it, but how you get into the game industry? Answered. There you go.
Geography
and IRC. Yeah.
Then I do the magazines, and then in college, then I get actually paid to do the magazines, and I agree to be the person that hey, you want to review Harry Potter for 7 platforms? That's me. I'm your guy. And then make $600 off of a bad Harry Potter game. Then I go to oneup.com because Luke Smith leaves to become a designer at Bungie. I'm there for 6 months before MTV offers me to be their West Coast editor. I'm there for a year until the 2008 financial crisis hits, and then I lose my job. I'm a permalancer, which means I didn't have a real job. You agree to a rate to match the equivalent of a salary, but you get no benefits, no health insurance, nothing. So then I lose my job there. Then I go to G4TV.com, not G4, the television network that's different, but it was in the same building. And then I get swindled into going to EGM's Reboot.
What year are we at right now? Ish.
Oh, that's maybe asking too much to try and actually pin the dates on these things.
No, because 2012, Obama's reelected. I'm in San Francisco again, and I'm at Giant Bomb at that point. And so this is somewhere between 2010. That sounds about right. And then EGM, the worst job I've ever had, actively loathed it, miserable place to work, lots of fun people to work with. Left that because I was going to come work with you guys. And I remember waiting a period till some ad deal came through where I could... Then the salary money was available to hire me. And so I told EGM, hey, I'm going to leave and go work at this other place. Here's my 2-week notice. And EGM said, go fuck yourself.
Nice.
Your job is over. You don't get the 2 weeks. I remember emailing Ryan and saying, hey, can I start 2 weeks sooner? He's like, no, the money's not available until 2 more weeks. At Giant Bomb for 4.5 years. Then I go to Kotaku for a year and a half, and then
I forgot about the Kotaku run. Yeah,
I remember that.
And then I was at Waypoint for almost 6.5 years, almost 7, because that lines up with my oldest daughter's birth. And then Remap has been a year and change.
All right.
Oof, you have
congratulations on being the Jacoby Brissett of video game journalism.
Oh, wow. Am I about to be replaced by Drake May?
I fucking hope not.
Yes,
this is football talk. He's a journeyman quarterback, a guy who you bring in for a season or two to fix whatever ails you and make sure that the draft pick you just got doesn't fuck up.
Yeah, you've been around this industry for a bit. You've done a couple of turns in the.
Vinny, I turned 40 in February.
That's
impossible. You are 14 years old, and you will forever be.
Yes. And the follow-up question: what's your favorite video game?
I'm
kidding. I'm kidding.
That's
let me start from
question.
the beginning.
The main reason you're here, there are two reasons. One, Brad Shoemaker is back home in North Carolina. We wish him all the best. He's with his family as they kind of deal with the aftermath of the hurricane there, and his family is okay. The house had some flooding. We talk about it on the Ramblecast. He is without power. This was a coincidental trip. He was going to go visit, but he did not plan on not having power there. So he's in that. Patrick, you have graciously agreed to come join us and fill that spot. Thank you very much. The second reason is we were talking, I think yesterday, Alex, Alex said that you have a list of movies for every day of the month in October. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. Yes. 31 days, 31 movies.
And you've been doing this for a bit.
2024. I did. Yeah, I did it for a long time at Giant Bomb. That's where it started. And I can't remember where the exercise began. And then I stopped doing it for a couple of years. I think because there wasn't really a fit for it at Waypoint. It didn't fit the vibe of the site in the same way that it did at Kotaku, where it was kind of like you were kind of your own individual blogger doing whatever you wanted, and Giant Bomb were kind of whatever you want to publish. No one's looking anyway.
Who's saying no? No one's saying no.
Yeah, no one's saying no. So just hit publish. But hey, that's how we ended up getting the reoccurring John Carpenter bits.
I know.
Giant Bomb was the direct result of the Shocktober lists. And
I didn't know that. Okay.
Listen, Giant Bomb is Happy Accident, the website. We know this.
Seriously.
So it started as. I think I just wanted to do spooky coverage in October at Giant. I was like, I'm just going to theme some stuff. I'll do some articles. And then I guess I'll do some podcasts and streams. And I was like building that out. And John Carpenter is one of my all-time favorite film directors. And at the time, this is he hadn't quite had sort of a pop culture resurgence in so much as you can ascribe that to John Carpenter in like the last 15 years. But this is the new set of Halloween films, in which he was back in the news a lot more, being interviewed a lot more. And he had this basic ass website. It was like almost like a johncarpenter.info. Like, hey, I'm John Carpenter. Like, here's these movies I made. Yeah. And he didn't run it, his son did. And if you went to there was a contact page. And usually if you go to a Hollywood contact page, it's like, here's the listing. If you're going to get anything, it's like, here's an agency something to send like a request to. And it was very clearly John Carpenter's son. And it was like webmaster at johncarpenter.com.
Yeah.
Right.
And my thought was, well, what do I have to lose?
What do you? You're a journalist. This is how you do it.
Mm-hmm. And I emailed, explaining this little pithy little email. I was like, hey, I'm a big fan. I helped run this website. I'm trying to do this horror coverage. And I know John Carpenter had expressed that he loved video. This is where he started to get on the radar of some people. He kept talking about how much he loved Borderlands. Like, that was a big thing for an era of Carpenter where people would always kind of crack up that this guy who directed Halloween and The Thing and Escape from New York also was like, and I love to collect the fucking loot. Borderlands is just so funny.
A little fucking robot. He's hilarious. He's just so funny.
And his son responded fairly quickly and was like, I think my father would get a huge kick out of this. And I asked for no verification. I just took it on faith that how could this not be true? And year after year, he would do my little Halloween things, and then you picked up doing the Game of the Year stuff, right?
Yeah, because he only did a couple of the Game of the Year lists, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah. He did 2 or 3 at most, and I ended up definitely getting him for one of them after you left, at least. And that was the one where I think he literally wrote nothing about the 5 games, except for one, which was like Far Cry 4 or something. And he was just like, despite loading issues. That was it. It was a parenthetical that just said, despite loading issues.
Fair assessment. Yeah.
Like, one of the other games on there was Murdered Soul Suspect, but he did not even put the subtitle on it. So it just said murdered. And then signature John Carpenter. That was it.
I wish can I do that for my Game of the Year list? That's great.
No! Just you direct the thing, then you can do that.
Yeah. That's great. Man. So
beautiful thing.
So Patrick, you've got your list up. It is now at Remap, right? Remapradio.com.
It is.
It's
31 Days of Horror.
I've pulled it up now, and I'm going through it, and you've got a lot of 2024 stuff on here, but some older things. Now, are these older things that you have not seen yet?
Broadly speaking, I in the piece, I kind of go into the criteria. It's like, one is I use anniversaries of major films as like a reason to revisit them. Like, I've got a handful, like Trick or Treat by Michael Dougherty is the only one that I watch every single year on Halloween. It's a classic anthology, a horror series.
I've heard.
That's funny, because that is also on our list of films we are watching for the Watchcast this month, because we're doing anthologies.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Trick or Treat is it's a delight. It's really good.
It's a good time.
He does an excellent Christmas horror film called Krampus that I highly recommend.
Oh, he's the Krampus guy. I didn't even realize that. Okay.
Yep. He did those. I wish his Godzilla film was better, but Trick or Treat and Krampus are both excellent. So it's a combination of those. So that's why Texas Chainsaw Massacre is on the list. That's a 40th or 50th anniversary. I forget off the top of my head. Blair Witch Project, which is my favorite horror film of all time.
All time.
25th anniversary on that one. So that takes up some part of them, which is movies I want to revisit. Others are just, these are movies that are coming out, themed around October. So you have like Netflix and Hulu and occasional theater movies. So those populate some spots on the list. And then increasingly it's, because I've done this for so long, I've seen so many of these films. It's like, what new arcane Reddit thread can I go through of people's 70s and 80s, like overlooked classics? And like, we're really stretching the definition of a classic at this point. And what I use to identify something I might want to put on my list as something I'm interested in is I'll look at, someone will post like 25 movies. And if I notice like 3 or 4 of them, I'm like, oh, this person is after my own heart. Then I will like kind of pluck those, look at a trailer, and that ends up filling up other parts of the list. So like, that's where you get 1977's Dean Koontz adaptation Demon Seed, about a rogue AI that decides that humanity is not worthy of his talents, and he wants to use a woman's body to create his own child. It's got some imagery, man. But it's got
that was a grim one for the old Koontz dog. I feel like that's a little outside his usual wheelhouse.
It's weird. He's got a couple of straight up kind of horror, and the adaptation is shockingly prescient and good, and has some really good practical effects. But it's not. It's number 2 on my list, but it's not a ranking of like number 2 movie.
No,
right.
You should watch. I really enjoyed it.
No, it's the second song in a set list. It's not necessarily. It means it's the best.
It's you have to kind of graduate to Demon Seed before you get to. That said, Alex, of course, I did buy the Blu-ray immediately upon watching it to add it to my collection.
Of course.
So.
Yeah, that's all we do now is we think vaguely about, it's like, yeah, that's a movie I saw once. I should own this. It's on sale. I should buy this.
I increasingly feel like owning it is not the right word. Preserving it should just be the word.
Yes.
Let's talk about this. I should preserve this. This should be printed on a disc somewhere within the on the vault.
Yes, I am the premier preservationist of the entire Sonny Chiba filmography. Okay, I am out
holding
here
up for our
holding
viewers.
History in my hands.
Yeah, yes, you are the one.
Yes.
Patrick, my question roughly for you that I had to Alex, that he was like, I don't know, you should ask Patrick this question, is there a threshold for the horror that you enjoy where you get to a point where you're like, this is actually too depressing or too violent or too gross or too, you've pushed the boundaries, I'm not enjoying this movie? Or are you open to all horror?
I think part of the, and this is like for real, like genre enthusiasts, I suppose. It's actually kind of like a constant rediscovering of like, if you can find that line again for yourself. I mean, I will say I do have some pretty, like there's a whole subgenre of films in horror, which is essentially like rape revenge films where like a woman is sexually assaulted and then goes and brutally murders her captors and those who, and there is a lot of really transgressive and actually outright progressive takes and films of that genre. I have a fairly low tolerance for those films in general. My wife has almost no interest in them, understandably.
Yeah.
We're the only times we've ever watched a film out, and it is a specific subgenre. Like there are enough of those that there is actual like books written about them. There's academia about how that subgenre of films often reflects the sexual climate of the era that they're made in. I appreciate them from an academic level, but it's only every once in a while, like folks I know in that community will like slide one across my desk. Like, I know you don't like to watch these movies, but like this one is worth watching because of X, Y, and Z. But that's, for me, that is like the one thing that I have to be deeply convinced on its merits for me to go into that territory. And often it's the only subgenre of horror, and my wife is just as much of a horror person as I am, where I tell her like, hey, I'm going to watch this one before we watch it together. Because horror for us is something we do as a couple. It's what we fell in love over. It's like a constant bonding thing for us is watching horror films. But that one, especially post kids, very obvious things. Yeah. It's just like, I forget what was the one, Alex, I don't know if you watched this. It was the follow-up from the director that did The Babadook.
Oh, no, I never saw that one. I don't think I've ever actually seen any other film made by that person.
She has a third film coming out. Jennifer Kent. She did, The Nightingale, which is a movie I would never subject my wife to, but was like, it's an incredible work of art that it's like, I don't.
But it's also deeply unpleasant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, to get off of a less upsetting subject, otherwise, right? Yeah. I horror movies are like roller coasters to me. I want to hit like the high again. I want to see where I can push myself to the edge. Alex, have you watched the Terrifier movies?
So I have seen the first Terrifier. I saw it fairly long after that thing started happening, so it was pretty recent. I haven't seen Terrifier 2 or 3 yet. Those movies, I feel like they are spiritually trying for a lot of the same sort of like slasher carny shit that the 80s were going for, a lot of the time, but doing it with modern, special effects and also just a much greater emphasis on gore, upsetting gore specifically. And I kind of feel like their vibe is not that far off from like the Human Centipede movies in the sense that it is the filmmaker really trying to amp up the look how fucking insane and transgressive and horrible and violent the thing we are doing is. But I'll be honest, that first movie, I was just kind of like, yeah, this is violent, but so what? I mean, it's like fun enough. Like there's occasional moments where I'm like, okay, that surprised me, but it's like, they're not special, I don't think. I mean, unless something in those other movies really changes it.
So Terrifier, Vinny, if you've been through like a Spirit Halloween or anything, so Terrifier, if anyone listening to this, Terrifier has what is probably, it's been a long time since we've had sort of a new iconic-ish character design.
A Freddy Krueger or a Jason or what have you, something like that.
That sort of ended in the 80s. Like we sort of, much like we stopped making mascot platformers. Like
mascot
we sort of stopped. I genuinely, that is similar sort of categorization.
It's like Ghostface is kind of like the last one. I feel like
Ghostface might be the last. And of course, that
Ghostface
comes from
Scream.
From Scream. Yeah.
How about Jigsaw? Is he?
Jigsaw? Yeah.
Does he count?
He's more hands-off than a lot of the other ones we're talking about.
Okay. This one get his hands actually dirty.
What do we call what's the puppet in Jigsaw, though? Because Jigsaw is the guy.
He has a name. I can't remember what it is.
But it's in that mold where you have sort of like a Chucky or a Jason Voorhees. We kind of stopped making horror films in that mold. And Art the Clown, who's the antagonist of the Terrifier movies, has become very popular because it's a very creepy looking black and white clown design. The performer, who is Art the Clown, does a exceptional job of just being terribly upsetting.
Honestly, he's very Robert Englund-like. Like a lot of his facial expressions and the way he sort of like camps it up through a lot of that, at least that first movie, like I feel like he has that particular style.
I think Terrifier 1 is an awful film. I think it's you can appreciate it from exactly the vantage point that you said, which is, wow, there's a real commitment to excessive gore and effects, but also like a real care to it. We're not just splattering on the screen to splatter. We're like, not artsy is the wrong word, but like they care about what they're putting on the screen. But I think it's a bad movie. Yeah. Terrifier 2, which somehow is nearly 3 hours long.
Like actually?
I don't know if I have that in me, man.
But But yeah, you're right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But it is actually a excellent horror film that also has some of the most upsetting gore effects I've seen put to screen in a long, long time. When you see those stories of like, oh, a guy passed out or threw up in the theater, that's usually kind of roll your eyes. I can. There's a couple
we just turned him into Jerry Lewis here for a second.
There's a couple scenes in this one where you could. There's specifically, if you've seen it, or if you want to look up a clip of it, the bedroom scene, the bedroom kill. It involves a scalp. Is one of the most brutal things I have seen put to screen,
and like not campy. Like,
I mean, there's a certain camp to it, but it is a hyper-violent camp.
I'm like kind of okay with hyper-violent camp. I think so. My wife and I, the thing that kind of instigated a lot of this conversation, Patrick. Brad recommended some movies, and I was like talking to my wife. I was like, we don't watch a lot of horror stuff.
Sure.
Like, let's go watch some horror stuff. Like, Brad recommended these. He said they were pretty cool. Like, let's go watch them. And the two he recommended. When Evil Lurks and It Comes at Night, I think is
Wait.
Those are the ones he recommended, yes.
Whoa. I mean,
when Evil Lurks is not fucking around, we know this.
What Evil Lurks? Did he give you any heads up on what happens?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, it wasn't totally sight unseen.
But I'm just saying, Vinny doesn't watch a lot of horror films. The one I'm going to pick is the one that has a deeply upsetting child scene in it.
So he kind of knows I have a thing for for my wife especially does not like kids, bad kids anymore. She has a very sensitive.
There's so many other movies we could have
I know.
But we watched the trailer for When Evil Lurks, and I watched it before. I was like, this ain't gonna happen. And then I watched It Comes at Night, and I was like, oh, this looks more like a psychological thriller. Let's get into this one. She watched It Comes at Night with me, and at the end was like, why would anybody make this movie? Why make this movie? It's like, why would you, like, she was not joking. She was like, why would you spend 2 years, a year and a half just in this place making this movie? It's so like, I think she was trying to express that, like, it's so depressed. It's so desperate. It's so like, this is just nothing good from here. And I think we realized that we like the campier slasher, like, give me the horror where it's something very silly is happening, not the oh, this is a tale of humanity. This is a cautionary tale, kind of like maybe it's the movie I said this to you, Alex, I think on the Ramblecast, where it's like it's the kind of movie where you're like, no, maybe not surviving in the beginning was the best thing. Maybe the people who died early, that was a blessing for them.
I think the living will envy the dead.
Yeah. So then, Patrick, I was wondering, like, do you find, like, when you watch those movies, you're like, I don't enjoy that anymore, or like that's just too nihilistic. Like, I just can't with this. Or you no, that's the thrill. That's it.
There's no. I don't think there is a ceiling for you. Yeah. I think for you, Pat, and you tell me if you think this is correct. I think you're like me in that there are probably certain things you just won't watch again, but you are still very much open to just about anything once.
Yeah, that is definitely. Yeah, I try to keep an open mind about stuff like that. But yeah, there is a thrill I get from the transgressive nature of horror. Like your wife's response, entirely reasonable, appropriate, perhaps arguably the right response. But for certain broken people like Alex and I, there is something about that transgressive quality of like, where when you're a kid, it kind of starts as a kid. We're like, well, I'm not supposed to watch stuff like this, and you can't really understand like what to appreciate about it. You don't have just the worldview to sort of understand what's like actually interesting about the craft and storytelling. And then, some of it is just that. It's like, can I feel that again? And it's not all about, it's not all about shock value. That is definitely like part of, I mean, like for Terrifier specifically, it is like, that is a movie that is just asking, can you survive this? Like that is what the movie is asking of you. And you should know that going into it. We're like, there are other hyper-violent, gore-filled movies that are much more palatable to an audience that's just like, I just want to kind of have a good time. Okay, with being like gory and scary. Like Terrifier is just like, you've seen it all. And then there's a door that opens and says, but you know other movies that stop.
Yeah.
Kind of like I would best describe Terrifier 2 especially. I haven't seen the third one. It's not on theaters yet. It's like when you tell a bad joke, but you just keep telling it. Yeah. And then it becomes funny because the joke keeps going, but then it just keeps going. It loops back around to being bad again. That's essentially what like Terrifier, it's
the Aristocrats, the movie.
Yeah, it's
horror.
like, this kill is, I see what's going to happen here. This will be over in 2 or 3 minutes. Hey, it's like 15 minutes. Like we're still pulling flesh off this body on the ground. And also for me, I find horror as a form of therapy. Like it is like, I like in the wake of like my dad passing, when I've had kids, like even movies that involve children being harmed, I don't seek that out in any sort of perverse form, but I do find the range of emotions that exist in horror, I think spans a larger spectrum than what exists in most other sort of like genres like fantasy, sci-fi. Not that because horror is so amped up, it allows you to more easily access those emotions because of the nature of like what's happening on screen. So I find horror to be very cathartic. And that's the artsy way. That's what I tell myself when I'm watching like flesh being peeled off of a person's body. I'm like, fuck yeah, that looks pretty cool.
Are you squeamish in real life? Like blood and like, I'm not talking like actual body horror, but like, like are you at all squeamish, like bugs and blood and stuff in real life?
Spiders. So my two phobias are being buried alive, which I feel like is maybe not a phobia.
That's not a phobia. That's
a very normal thing to be afraid of.
Nobody wants to do that.
I don't want to meet the person that doesn't have that fear.
Yeah, right.
But it particularly gets like, it's the kind of thing where the moment the concept is introduced in a film, I'm just on edge in a way that I'm not on edge with other things. That one, it's probably an extension of maybe being slightly claustrophobic. Okay. And then spiders, like, I'm definitely have a spider phobia. Like I'm definitely arachnophobic. Which is of course why number 29 on this list is a spider film that I intend to watch.
Which one?
Well, I already watched Infected, which was the French horror film that is about thousands of spiders getting you. I highly recommend it. I think it's still on Shudder. It's really well crafted. The person who did that is doing an Evil Dead film next, which is a really fun pairing after Evil Dead Rise. The other one I haven't watched yet though is Sting.
Oh, I think I saw the trailer. It's recent.
It's it's a little more playful, but it's like one spider that gets really big.
It's like a pet spider, right?
Yeah, and it's just still like crawling in your mouth and doing other upsetting things. So it's like those are the closest I get to. If my wife didn't want to watch them, I think I might go, wow, I'm so busy. I guess I don't need to watch Sting this year. But then she is the opposite end of me. She loves spiders, thinks they're fascinating. I mean, she's the person that when there's a spider in the house, if she's home, I will go fetch her. Be like, save this creature before I throw a book at it.
Sure.
But those are the spiders are my. Like that's the thing that really gets under my skin.
Okay.
Under my skin.
The log line,
under your skin. I got it. Oh, gross. Yeah.
The log line for this Sting movie here on IMDb is really something. After raising an unnervingly talented spider in secret, 12-year-old Charlotte must face the facts about her pet and fight for her family's survival when the once charming creature rapidly transforms into a giant flesh-eating monster.
Yeah. Classic stuff.
You named the girl Charlotte, really? Is that like just maybe a tad on the nose?
Oh, I didn't even put that together. That's good, Alex. That's good. Yes.
Yes, I've seen enough movies at this point.
So, it's good to know. I was curious, and then I think I have my answer, Patrick. You have no limits. You are
no.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I suppose not. And the like a lot of people very understandably like your wife, the kid stuff becomes a thing, and that is definitely a thing for my wife, but it doesn't stop her. She just asks me to find out in advance so that she can be ready, prepared for it.
Do you ever, I guess this is kind of a what's your favorite video game question, but is there a horror movie that you remember that you're like, I had to look away? This is the one I watched through some of my fingers, or that you were like, that's just too much, and not in the Terrifier way where you're like, I'm absorbed by this in a way that's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. The movie that there were a couple movies that killed me. I felt like they killed me in my youth. They were the Blair Witch Project, but that one I was able to watch just fine. It was with the aftermath of destroying an entire summer of attempting to sleep in a house where my mom really didn't like to pay for the air conditioning, and so she would constantly just have fans running in our rooms and the windows open, and my window faced the backyard.
Oh God!
And some of the most terrifying noises in the Blair Witch Project are what are clearly just squirrels or raccoons
or deer
walking on leaves. But in the context of the film is a horrifying creature hunting these people. And I would hear that in my backyard and go, well, I guess we're not, Final Fantasy VII, want to grind that to level 99 again? I think that's what we're going to do instead of going to sleep. And I'd wait till the sun started to peek out before I would sleep for 6 hours. And then the other movie that fucked me up as a kid was Fire in the Sky.
Yeah. One particular scene, I imagine.
Yeah. The rest of the movie's like a totally whatever, fine.
No one remembers the rest of the movie.
No one remembers the rest of the movie. And yeah, Fire in the Sky has one of the all-time scariest scenes ever just put to film. It's an abduction scene.
It's like a waste of syrup, It's like just that all that syrup has just been wasted.
The way the latex is on his face and they're open.
Just a lot happening.
Yeah, you can go look up the scene on YouTube if you want to skip the watching the film. But that one was back in I was deep into X-Files, and so as a result, I was deep into Aliens. And I remember I had an aunt of mine was babysitting us, took us to the video store, and my parents are pretty loosey-goosey with what they let us watch and not watch. And so if Patrick wanted to get a movie with an alien on the cover, like whatever, like it's just aliens. How bad could it be? Well, the scene in Fire in the Sky is about as bad as it could be.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. Rough scene. Okay. And now as an adult, just bring it.
Yeah,
just bring it. Yeah, and the thing though, and aliens will be the aliens, much like spiders. You put a gray, as they call it, like the sort of skinny alien with the big black eyeballs. You just put that on a screen, and it might as well be a spider on the screen. Like it just immediately. Like I've watched very bad alien films. I'm like, wow, that was pretty fucked up.
How did you feel about what's the Shyamalan one with the aliens?
Signs?
Oh, yeah. Love that movie.
Love
Signs.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. But you get some catharsis in Signs. There's it's not The Fourth Kind. It's another alien movie. Oh, what's The Americans? Who's the actress in The Americans?
Oh, Carrie Russell.
Carrie Russell. Do you remember the alien movie she was in? Dark Skies.
Dark Skies. Yeah, I did see Dark Skies at some point.
It's a 2013 alien movie. You're gonna look at the cover and be like, "This movie sucks." And it does not suck. I think it has one of the more terrifying sort of abduction chase scenes. Like I think it's actually a really well made alien film, and has one of the bleakest endings to one of these films. Like earmuffs if you don't want to hear the ending to the 2013
spoiler alert,
film, Dark Skies, spoiler alert. But their kid just gets abducted by the aliens at the end of the movie, and at the final scene is Carrie Russell's character goes into her son's bedroom. And it's sort of like going through his stuff and just mourning, like, I hope he will appear again. And there's like a creepy kid's toy that I think established in the film can sort of touch the frequency of how the aliens communicate. It's kind of became one of the warning signs they got that something was going to happen at the house. And she's able to tune it. And all she hears is some weird alien, like, grumbling. And her child just screaming at the top of his lungs.
No!
And the movie cuts to black. I'm getting like chills just like
no!
It's pretty
saying it.
That's messed up, man.
Oh, I remember when I rewatched it, I remember that's what happened. And it's sometimes like I just blanked that film out of my memory and then watched it again. I stood up and I was like, fuck yeah, that's how you end a horror movie.
That's really disturbing. That's a parent nightmare. And that's beyond parent nightmare. That's like a hell, Like that's terrible. That's terrible.
So bad. It's so bad.
Sorry, your kid went to Event Horizon. Not my fault.
but it's not as Sam Neill. He's not enjoying it.
No.
Not a pain and pleasure situation.
All right. Well, Patrick, I thank you for going down this horror. Look, this is our October horror warm up here. I thank you very much. We are going to talk about video games. I promise that. We're going to take a break.
That is the Nextlander promise.
That is the Nextlander promise. There's not too much in the video game realm. I think all of us have kind of been playing Zelda and a few things here. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about that. I need to decompress for a second and then get that out of my head. I need to go do whatever the equivalent of brushing your teeth is to my brain. And then we'll be right back and we'll talk about some video games. Stick around. All right, we are back and I'm feeling great. We have a couple of games to get through here. One big one, let's just start off with it. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Now, this is the first game. Is this true? Where Zelda is the protagonist? Is that true? I feel like that's the headline game, right? What's that?
One of the CDI games was a.
Oh yeah.
Well, you could also play as her in that fucking Muso game, couldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a mainline Zelda, but yes.
Yeah, just like Smash Brothers, right? Yeah. You could, but I feel like that's the headline I've seen in all the mainstream media stuff, like Echoes of Wisdom. And that video game part of me, that gamer, that real capital G gamer part wants to be like, well, actually, and I can't think of the game where it's like, was she in something else? I'm not 100% sure. You guys have both been playing it as well?
Yeah.
I have not had the chance to yet.
Oh, okay. Well, Patrick, you're in it.
Yes. I've played a handful of hours of Echoes of Wisdom. I'm really enjoying it. I am somebody that, the way I've always kind of put it is, I have a deep respect for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and also don't particularly care for either game.
Wow. Okay, good.
I know, I'm really...
No, I'm with you. I'm on your side on this
one. And I'm also with you. This is a weird... We never get three... We're the three people in the room. This is it.
I think
we need to stick together.
They do some really incredible stuff. Like, they are very forward-thinking in some really interesting ways. They are not the way I want to play a Zelda game.
Well, and even, the last, I guess, traditional Zelda game before they kind of splintered off with the new approach with Breath of the Wild, Twilight Princess, I haven't had a chance to revisit that game since it came out, as a launch, Wii game. I bounced off it almost immediately, despite really loving Zelda games. I really wanted them to re-release it so I could try and figure out what happened there. But I do think, to some extent, Nintendo hit a wall creatively on what do we do with this existing structure we've had from Link to the Past to Ocarina of Time.
Are you counting the handheld ones? Because I feel like the creativity has been there, with Minish Cap, Link Between Worlds.
I think that those are sort of parallel Zelda games, right? I think this game is in conversation with that style of game, while also pulling from design elements, the more creative, player-centric elements of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But it's I'm so glad those games exist. It seems to have reinvigorated the Zelda franchise. They're obviously beloved by tens of millions of people. I finished Breath of the Wild out of obligation and then made it to the first boss of Tears of the Kingdom before I finally allowed myself to accept, you don't have to play this if you're not having a great time, even if they seem exceptionally well crafted. So what I find really lovely about Echoes of Wisdom is part of my issue with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is you can do anything. And I need a smaller box. I need a smaller playground to play in. And Echoes of Wisdom still has that player-centric mentality of hey, we're going to give you a bunch of tools, and then you get to go figure out what you want to do with them in this world that we've presented. And there are more barriers in Echoes of Wisdom. This is not a game where hey, the final boss is over there in the corner. You want to go fight him now and just end the game.
Right.
I guess you could do that. It's not quite hand-holdy, but there are more rails for the player in terms of where they go, what they do, when they can do it. But in the moment to moment, it feels very expressive. It feels very fun. I'm not sure how it's going to hold up over, like 15, 20 hours, but in the 5-ish that I've played, I've had a really good time. I haven't made it to the second dungeon because I'm mostly just puttering around the world. And the neat part is like there's actual elevation to Echoes of Wisdom, whereas Minish Cap, a lot of the other handheld games, or Link's Awakening, including the remake from a couple of years ago, you're going up, down, left, right. There's a little bit of elevation, but it's not like something you're thinking about all the time. Where here, well, it's like, okay, like I shouldn't normally be able to get up there.
Yeah.
But I might be able to if I do X, Y, and Z, and then get up there and then reset my echoes and then get on this tree. And then like, it's kind of fun just to screw with the world and see what you can get away with in a way that I have found very refreshing for a Zelda game.
It does seem to share that with Tears of the Kingdom, where you feel like it's a hack. It's like a hack, and like somebody ROM hacked the game, and you're like, well, I could just spawn anything. Like you put the developer tools in my hand as a mechanic here.
One of the things I keep seeing it compared to is actually Scribblenauts, in the way that you sort of just like invent objects and things essentially to try and solve your way out of situations.
Yeah, so the main mechanic here is, or the setup is Link, this, and do what you want to do, Nintendo, break my heart, but they put this off in its own little orbit in the Zeldaverse in terms of narrative continuity, right? So in this one, I don't think Link and Zelda even know each other. It's some other universe, whatever's going on. Link is pulled into a rift. These rifts are happening all over Hyrule. Zelda gets this magic wand, which basically allows her to clone objects in the world. And at first you think like, okay, they're going to be pretty strict on what you can do. But any enemy you kill so far, not bosses, but any grunt you kill, basically you can then absorb and then just spam out according to how many nuggets your friend has, right? How many little Triforce nuggets. You start with like 3, and then you gain power as you do dungeons. And so you get things like tables, trampolines, beds, which you can sleep in. Pro tip, if you want to get your hearts back, the better beds give you faster heart recovery. And you actually don't really have, as Zelda, any direct combat necessarily. You're mostly a support character who is casting things out. You do get an ability to, or at least where I am, you might get more later on. You get a couple of things. One is the ability to hold objects in place, which again, if you're not using that when you're in combat, I highly recommend it, because your grunts are not very smart all the time. They whiff a lot.
I didn't even think about. Like, when I'm watching my little crows, like, just get them. Just
you keep missing. You're the worst. Why are you so terrible? You could just freeze them in place for a little bit.
Wow.
Very helpful. And the other thing you get, this is just some early mechanic. You can turn into Link for a limited amount of time, basically. You get to go into combat mode where you have Link's sword and you can like burn a meter, and then you can directly combat enemies for a limited amount of time, and they build on that mechanic as you go. But that's kind of a direct combat mechanic. So kind of like what you were saying, Patrick, the fun I'm having in it is like, okay, look, I'm a trampoline guy. That's just where I'm gonna be. I just like, I don't care what you give me. I'm always gonna use these trampolines to get up on a wall. But you do get more interesting things later. But my issue with it is they have given me so many things. Just finding the thing I want in the list becomes a little bit.
The UI is awful.
Okay,
This is a game that is about. I mean, I think Nintendo has, or maybe reviewers pegged it at like 100 plus, items that you're gonna that you're gonna have access to by the end of the game. Even a couple hours into the game, you are. I thought at first,
in your 20s,
I thought the game would be a pretty, like a slower progression where like, hey, you're going to get access to 2 or 3 or 4, and like you're going to spend the opening hours of the game just like really understanding how these work. The game's like very quickly like, screw it. Like, you want like 20 or 30 of these things, especially once you're in the open world where, or the semi-open world where you can kind of go off the beaten path and find sort of enemies that maybe are a little higher level, and all of a sudden you've got them on your team. There's no good way to like scroll through. Like, it's a horizontal menu that you're scrolling through, and at times you're scrolling through if you're not like, I think you can sort it by what, like most last used, most recently like acquired, and then frequently used, but
type.
What this game needs is like loadouts and
yes.
Like, I also just don't understand, why doesn't it just fill the screen? Like, just give me like a grid
it's weird.
that I can pick from.
It's very much like the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom menu, like your items menu.
Yes, that's a great comparison.
But the thing is, like, you kind of want like a quick switch of like, okay, give me a hot bar with 5 of them, because I want this enemy in this area I'm at. I want this enemy for fighting, these 2 enemies for fighting, and I want these 2 things for navigation. And like I'm going to be switching between those constantly. And what happens is you're like, oh, okay, well, the trampoline I use a lot, and then, oh man, this enemy actually sucks against this other enemy. I have to go switch it out, and that means it takes it out of my frequently used, and it just winds up being a little tedious. I found it, and not that it's sucking the joy out of it. It just feels like a solvable problem. It's definitely a UI problem.
It just slows it's a game that's otherwise like pretty fast and snappy. And to your point, it's very easy to imagine a version of this game that has cooldowns on spawning. Yeah. Has just more limit, like, hey, like, stop spamming the level 2 spear goblin. Like, go use something else. It doesn't do that. It is instantaneous, to the point where I thought this is like very exceptionally clever of the game. Like, when you're, like, let's say you're trying to build a structure to get to something, the game will warn you, like, hey, the first one you made, that's going to disappear when you spawn the next one. And so the game is really encouraging you to be like dynamic and not think about it. Just put what you want in the world. Like, there's no consequences. This is just meant to be the limits of your creativity in the space we put in front of you. But there's so much friction and there's so much slowing of the game down to just get to, like, you have the idea faster than you can put it into practice in the game. And the distance between idea and on the field is just way too long. And like, we're not UI designers.
No.
And I try not to I try not to, do that thing where like, well, why didn't they just do the obvious thing? But this does feel like, even if they didn't do my proposed solution of just a grid or a favorites list.
Well, you can get a grid.
You
can get a book that just has them all in it. But again, that's like a kind of maybe too many button prompts than you want. Like, I do feel like you want like a radial menu, or you just want your top 5,
Yeah, if I like held a button and then got a radial menu that like just pulled up a favorites list of like 15 or 20, part of what it
I feel like they will patch in a favorites list.
No, they won't. This is Nintendo. They don't do quality of life
they'll
updates
do
to
it
games.
like they did with Breath of the Wild, where they did like that weird update where you got the tracking thing on the map and they added the motorcycle.
That's like the one except, like, Nintendo. I joked about this when we talked about the game on Remap Radio. I was like, well, I can't wait to see those UI improvements in Echoes of Wisdom 2 in 3 years, because that's just usually what I would love to be like surprised and to see that happen. But traditionally, Nintendo does bug fixes, and that's about it in terms of their changes. So, but I'm with you. It's because this is otherwise this can be the kind of game where it's very easy to slip into using the same creatures or the same solutions over and over again. And one way to fight against that is to make it easier and faster to access your repertoire. Otherwise, you might be inclined to just say, well, I could do something fun and creative here, or I could just put out Spear Goblin level 2 and just like watch them clean up. My way of pushing back against that, it was not UI related, but this has been my 4-year-old's go-to game of like, hey, screen time is over for the night, but it's not bedtime.
Can I watch you?
Dad, can I watch you play Zelda? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so the way she's 4, she has not really had a whole lot of interest in holding. Astrobot got her to pick up a controller, and so she's starting to wrap her head around it a little bit there. But the Switch Joy-Cons are so small and fiddly, like it's a little too much. Anyway, long story short, the way we play it is when we get to a combat sequence, I pull up the menu, and she gets to pick what goes into the field. So there was a spot where we were fighting crows or something, and she's like, this is all snakes. I'm like, I don't. Okay, like it's all snakes. But what's fun is then for me, it's like, okay, I'm trying to time the spawning of the snakes so their animation and it's goofy and ineffective, but was a lot of fun. And she helps me get at some of the core best elements of Echoes of Wisdom, which the game is not always helping you do yourself, which is like do weird stuff, like do oddball stuff. When I played this at PAX, the first mini boss you fight, I won't spoil like who it is because like the character's presence is kind of a spoiler, but I just got obsessed with using the keys, like the little bat creatures. Because I would like basically try and get the enemy to come. I couldn't hit them; they were holding something in front of themselves, and there's like I was just having I would spawn the bats and then kite the character around so that the bats would hit him in the back. And I managed to, after like 15 hits, take him down. Yeah. And the Nintendo representative turned to me and was like, "Hey, obviously this is a very expressive game where players should do what they want. Do you want to know what you were like quote unquote supposed to do there?" And I'd forgotten the mechanic. I forget what's it called when you can the green where you can grab onto things.
Oh, I forget what it's called too, but it's basically like possess.
Bind. It's like bind. I was supposed to bind the character and pull off what they were holding onto, thus exposing them to attacks from all sides.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
But I got obsessed with getting my little bats to do it for me, and it was delightful. I didn't feel unsatisfied. At the conclusion of the fight. I solved it, and that's the game at its best. And then I think it's things like the UI that frustrate me on, like you're not always getting to that moment as many times as you could or should.
Yeah, yes. And I think the key point for me to add on to what you're saying is it discourages a little experimentation because it's a little like one too many seconds even just to get into that thing. But I am enjoying it. And have you done the desert yet?
No, because when you get into the world, you can go two ways. There's like go to the desert, or you can go to the Zoras. And so I went to the Zoras. Okay. So I went to the desert. Yeah. And there's a guy there that an enemy there that has been my go-to now for like I just found this enemy that I'm like, this guy rocks. Like I've been using him for a long time now. He freezes enemies and like he just holds them still and then hits them. It's just great. And it's like stuff like that where I'm like, you're rolling with me, man. This is my boy here.
Welcome to the team.
Yeah, welcome to the team. So I've had a lot of fun with it. I want to keep going with it. It is very much like the Link's Awakening remake style. I don't really know why we have to keep putting these 2D sections in where you go down the ladder. I don't know. Somebody must enjoy them. I don't think they're that interesting, even in a puzzle way. They don't take them much away. It's a very minor quibble. It just seems like a silly thing to have in the game. But they do some interesting things mechanically with it when you go 2D so that you can use some of your enemies in interesting ways. So I guess there is merit to it. I don't know. Every time I get to one, I'm like, oh, all right, I think this gotta go across here.
Yeah, it ends up limiting, like, your echoes function very differently down there. In which
in sometimes interesting ways, so I'll give them credit for
interesting ways, many times not. I mean, I think in general, the developer of this was a studio that's done a lot of support stuff for Nintendo. Grease, I think, is the studio's name. They've done a lot of support stuff for Nintendo in the past, and they did the Link's Awakening remake from a couple years ago, and this is their first time doing something wholly original for Nintendo. I highly recommend. Nintendo they still kind of do a version of Iwata Asks, where they have these really candid, fascinating conversations with the developers, and there's a really great one with Onuma, the series producer on Zelda, and the developers on this game. One of which, like as an aside, like, wow, Nintendo finally decided to make a game where they put Zelda at the center and build a game around her. No, they tried to make a game with Link, and then like the mechanics, they couldn't figure out how to take a sword away from Link, so they put Zelda in instead.
Oh, and interesting. Okay.
It also started as Super Zelda Maker. They wanted to do for almost a year and a half. They were building a dungeon creation.
I can see it. Okay.
Yeah, I can see how you get from there to here, though. Like that's not that far of a leap.
Yes. And that's all to say. This is like a team that I thought did a pretty good job remaking like a really good game in Link's Awakening. Now they're taking on a really heavy task of doing a pretty novel, different mechanic, also doing world design, also doing level design. And I I think there's a lot of potential in like where this could go. I think it's like an excellent foundation for a future like parallel series with what Nintendo's doing in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I expect them to follow that for whatever comes next there. But I'm almost able to kind of hand wave away some of the subs, like the level design, the dungeon design. It's just okay. Like it's just okay. Like the mechanics are doing
potatoes.
Yeah, like it's not that clever. It's not that interesting. Maybe it gets better as it goes along, but so far, the clever idea, the mechanic, the echoes, like that's what this game has, and it goes a really, really long way. But I'm excited for the future where hopefully they'll have a little more confidence to sort of get the rest of that stuff in order.
Well, I think, and not to belabor the point, but I do think it is interesting, like a Tears of the Kingdom, where there are points where you're like you were saying with that boss fight, where you would say to yourself, I'm pretty sure this isn't how they intended me to do it. You know, even in the level design of the dungeons, where you're like, I'm pretty sure they did not want me to build 7 tables here to figure out the thing, you know?
What I need the 7 tables to put a bed down so I can sleep in it.
They didn't sleep on top of the bed, so they can't get me. Really enjoying it. I'm still feels pretty early on, but it took me a while to beat that desert dungeon. So I'm not sure how many dungeons there are. I'm gonna guess 4. I have no idea because it just seems like that's where they're at. And so it took me a while to beat that desert one, just because you're collecting a lot of stuff. Like you said, you're exploring that area. You're trying to get to the top as quickly as you can. So I'm curious to see where it all goes. Kind of enjoying just pretty light lift. It's not a hard game, or at least is not challenging yet. I actually beat one of the boss in the desert thing and was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, I think I missed the chest in there. I'm just going to reload a previous save. I'll beat the boss again for 20 rupees. Just that's like kind of the level of difficulty these things are at so far.
Not pushing you too hard.
No. And it's like, it took me like 6 minutes to beat the boss at the end of the dungeon. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, $60, and I'm pretty sure Tears of the Kingdom was $70. So I don't know if that makes this like is that considered a more budget title, or is that did they move their price point around?
I think that was end of the generation squeezing of Tears of. I expect $70 to be the standard price point for Switch 2 games, and I think Tears of the Kingdom was just a unique set of circumstances where they knew the anticipation for that game was through the roof, and it was the kind of game that they could charge anything for. Also, I would have paid $70 for a stable frame rate. Like if there's a,
I was going to ask about that.
I found the performance to be similar to Link's Awakening.
So bad.
Yeah. So I don't.
You're not really
it.
selling me with that one. I'm going to be honest.
It's like it's hard for me to even complain at this point, because what's left to say? Like everybody, even Nintendo is like, yeah, we need a new Switch. This is like where we like the thing I was going to say and then stop myself from saying it during at the top of this discussion was like, can't wait to play this on the Switch too, because it's a joke, right? It's like, yeah, of course. So
it's a joke, but also it isn't.
So it's not getting in the way of my enjoyment though. So there's that to be said. But yes, it is. It is not the most performative thing, or the performance is not great.
It is the kind of game where there are so many games to play right now. If you think you're going to buy a Switch 2, my guess is there will be either a free or, like they've done with the PlayStation 5, like maybe you pay for an upgrade to get it on. Because,
do you think that we talked about this on a previous podcast? Do you think Nintendo will put a path for people to upgrade games they have? Let's start digitally, that they have digitally on for a boost in whatever resolution or assets or whatever they do for the version they bring to the Switch 2. Do you think they'll put a path?
They've never really had a situation like this where there's just such a direct analog between the previous hardware and the next hardware. Like in the past, when that's been like the jump from the NES to the SNES, like it's such a transformational leap in the kinds of games technically that were being published, whereas here, the switch to the Switch 2 is going to be more like upgrading the graphics card on your PC. Like, oh, okay. Like it's very easy to imagine a way forward where they could offer either free or paid upgrades. I mean, I whether they go free or paid, I strongly suspect they will have some sort of feature that brings. But like Tears of the Kingdom, do I think they're going to give that to you for free? Like, absolutely not.
But will they make you, even if you own it, will they make you buy it again for $70?
That I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them.
No, then neither would I.
No.
Or it's what is Sony charges $10 for.
That's what they had been doing. Yeah,
I don't think they do that anymore. Or I mean, there's not really.
They're doing it with Horizon
because now they're just making new HD updates of all the same games. Right. There's no upgrade.
Yeah.
If it's an upgrade path, they split the difference, and it won't be $10. It'll be $30. You know what I mean? Like it will be a premium price to get the upgrade.
What if they put it behind their highest tier subscription thing? Nah, that would be a weird model, because if you end your subscription, do you lose your entitlements of the new thing?
then your games look shittier because you stopped paying.
Yeah. Again, I don't put anything past them. I think they will probably end up making more of the consumer-friendly decisions than not with this thing, if I had to guess. But there will be one thing that is just so astronomically, what the fuck are you talking about? Because it's Nintendo. There has to be at least one.
Like, your saves won't come over, and you'll be like, you'll be like, dude, what? You'll be like, oh, no. Yeah, no, it's $15 to get in, no save, you have to start over. Why? It's a great question. The same architecture, really.
A transfer fee? Like, no, we'll bring it over, but you need to slide $15 over the credit card in order to get those files to look at
one time for one save. Pick your favorite save.
$15 a save. Get at it.
But for NSO Ultimate members, like 5 saves. I mean, like.
So wait, I forget the Nintendo thing. One of their tiers does cloud saves. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think I just have the regular like family one. The like, hey, get online. I don't have the one that gets you the higher tier one. I can't remember though.
I ended up paying for the family pack because the game that both my kids play the most is Mario Kart, and so if I got the NSO I don't know, the thing that costs like $80 a year, like you get all the Mario Kart DLC bundled with it, and so then I didn't have to purchase, like, we have a Mario Kart 8 cart, so the kids can pass that cart around, but then I didn't have to purchase individual DLCs for like their individual Switches.
Well, so the thing I was going to say was maybe they just do save transfers for people who are if there is, I don't want to misspeak, but if I thought there was a cloud save thing for them, and maybe
there's
they just
something
do it for people in that tier. Echoes of Wisdom out now, $60. Pretty good. I enjoy it. I hope it even gets better and better as I get more things and more abilities outside of the Echoes. But I'm enjoying it so far. Let's move on here to Patrick. Tell me about Pinball Spire.
Pinball Spire was a game I caught my eye during, it was like Steam Next Fest over the summer or something like that. I am somebody that I admire the concept of pinball. I like to go to a pinball machine and play it once and go, that seems well made. I love pinball. It reflects a lot of things I like about platformers. Like, I just love playing with physics. And so in theory, I should like pinball because it's the whole design of the boards is around playing with physics and momentum. But I don't like chasing high scores. Like, it just doesn't do anything for me. Like, I need more concrete objectives and sort of a conclusion that you're reaching. And so it's kind of always been the hang up I've had with pinball. But anytime a game comes along that takes the mechanics of pinball and puts it into something else, like, I find it to be so joyous. Yoku's Island Express from a couple of years back was such an awesome, awesome game. The last time I thought about that game, it's like, oh, it's been like 5-6 years since that game came out. We got to be like gearing up for a sequel or something from that new team. No, they shipped that game and then disbanded. So that team's not working on anything else anymore, which was upsetting to me because I found that Metroid plus pinball to be a really fun theming in that game. So Pinball Spire was a game that promised something similar, not as ambitious as Yoku's Island Express, but hey, like, we're going to make pinball plus Metroid and like kind of see what we can shake out of it. So the aesthetics of it are a little more literal. Like, Yoku's Island Express dresses up the boards, so to speak, so they almost come across as more of a platformer or a traditional level. Whereas in Pinball Spire, you see like the elements of the board, the different parts that the ball can slide across. You've just got straight up flippers that look like flippers. And all that's present, but you are like going through different levels and different areas, finding secrets that like lead you to different upgrades that like, allow you to like slow down time. And if you slow down time when you're on a flipper, it'll bring up like an aiming thing, so you can see exactly where the ball is going to go. And so it's really charming. I'm not that far into it. The final version just came out this week, and so I've been dying to have some more time with it. But I really enjoyed the demo, and so I would point folks towards that final version that just came out. If you're looking for pinball wrapped up in a different package, this one seems. I know that seems so silly, but I've just never been able. I've tried over and over to crack pinball for myself, and it always just turns out I need it put into something else. It's like trying to hide medicine for a child.
Or like feed a dog.
Look, not every kind of amusement speaks to everybody. I like pinball, but I also, I'm not Jeff Bakalar. It's somewhere between the two of you in that I enjoy it. I like playing it, but I don't need to have those goddamn contraptions in my own home. And so, it's a spectrum.
There is another pinball thing, and I cannot remember the name of it, that it's a pinball adventure game. Do you guys remember at all? It's not Yoku's Island Express. It was something else. Came out after it. Not a big deal, but I was trying to think of it for your pinball amusement. But Pinball Spire is just looking at some of the graphics on it, or the video on it, and it looks cool.
Yeah, fun. It's pinball's got me to play the most amount of the only gacha game that I've ever played. What was that? What was the pinball? It was World Flipper.
Okay,
that I do remember.
World Flipper is it's a pinball gacha game with just incredible art, RPG sort of mechanics for these characters you're leveling up and bringing along. And I really liked it, except for the gacha part, which is where it all kind of fell apart.
Kind of a big part, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was like many of those games where, it's a couple times I've tried to play Genshin Impact, where it's like, this is like game is really wonderful, except for the part where you have to, pull for different characters. And that's where I fell apart on World Flipper. Was this game should be one of my favorite games, but I need it to be a different game. Could it be all of this? But like not this, and that's where I ended with World Flipper. But please, if people can think of other games in this mold, please, send me a message.
Hit us up.
There's definitely one. I can't remember it now though. But I will.
A lot of video games have come out.
It's true. They keep making them. And speaking of other video games, Alex.
Yeah.
I played a little more Frostpunk 2. I don't really have much more to report on it.
I got a little further in that too.
Yeah.
It's still depressing, though. Again, maybe not quite as depressing as the first game.
No, but I still feel like I'm making bad choices constantly. But I do like the vibe.
And I think it again. It's a great looking game. Like that's the thing that's really stood out to me, is that they've really like built on the vibe and the look of that first game in a really spectacular way. I'm not completely sold on some of the changes they've made as far as like expanding the strategy systems in that game, but. Not in like they're bad way, more of like okay, this is good, but it's not necessarily what I loved about the first one.
I found it a little less, maybe I'm just not too into it far enough yet, a little more manageable for where I'm at.
It definitely is. And I think that's actually part of my problem with it, is that I think they have tried to tune it down a little bit in terms of depressing. Yeah. And therefore the systems themselves were very depressing in the first game. And I think they're trying to hit maybe a slightly broader audience of people who don't want the most depression shoved in their face all the time.
Yeah. Which is, I get it.
Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to cater to me anymore. I get it.
Patrick, have you played much UFO 50?
Yeah, we did. So I didn't play much when it came out, but then we did a really fun stream over remap called Wheel of UFO 50. Where we put
nice, you like your wheels, yes.
Yeah, I do like my wheels.
Of UFO.
Exactly. And I did that with our producer, Ricardo Contreras, and one of my colleagues, Janet Garcia, and we all just like spun this wheel. And it was like, part of my problem, I loaded up UFO 50, got intimidated.
Yeah.
I don't know what to play or in what order or for how long. And so part of the premise of the stream was, let's take some of that out of our hands.
Sure.
So we the wheel decided what you had to play, and then we put an arbitrary limit of 10 minutes on it,
Okay.
and then we just jumped from game to game, which led to a very pleasant and interesting experience. But that's like kind of been the most exposure I've had to the game. Have you gone deep on any single game yet?
The only one I really like is the clicker one. I don't know if you've gotten into that one. It's the one
that where you land on this, your spaceship crashes?
That's like every other game.
Okay.
There are a lot of spaceships.
It is, but yes, that is true. And there's like a timer on the crystals, and it's weird because it's the meta game that I do a thing, and then I kill some time playing the little game, the other ones that are in it, and then go back to because everything's on a timer in that.
So it runs in the background.
Yeah, it runs in the background. So like it's the thing that keeps me in UFO 50 at this point because it's like, oh, I've done everything I can. I have to wait for something to recharge or generate enough things.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go explore some of these other games for 5, 6, 7 minutes, and I'll go back to the game I want to play. So it's weird in how it's structured, where it's like that's how I found my hook in that game, because I kind of bounce off of the other ones, the smaller ones. I haven't gotten through them all. I've just been poking around, but I kind of wanted to see if you had hit that clicker one yet, because that's...
Well, no, I didn't realize it was so I knew, I lit up UFO for the first time. My kids were at a kids play place after eating lunch, and I brought my Steam Deck, and like, I'm going to bounce around some of these games, and I started checking that one out, but I'm like, am I missing do I just have to sit here while the number goes up? Like, now that that's a new thing.
It's very slow at first, yes.
It's very slow at first, but I didn't go back to it. I just left being like, this
well, then you're going to cap
weird.
out your crystals, because that caps out at 2,000.
Well, I'm sure I'm at 2,000 now, because the game doesn't communicate that to you. It's just sort of either something someone told you or something you discover.
So it's in the tiny little bio description. If you look at the like fun fact of the game, it'll be like, oh, this was the first game to use a system clock so that it allowed it to run keep processing in the background.
I did not even pick up on that part.
So the only other one, and I talked about this last time, that though you might enjoy this one because it is kind of a horror game, is the kind of Shadowgate-ish one, the adventure game in it, which is actually pretty good. It's the one I played through in one sitting, just kind of like, oh yeah, this is definitely my jam in here. I cannot remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I'm
looking at the list right now. If you want me to try and find it.
It's like lower left. I don't. Is it a text list you're looking at, or
it's a
picture?
Text list?
Okay, yeah, something Manor, maybe.
Definitely not Party House, because that is one of the ones I've played. That one's pretty good, I gotta say.
Night Manor.
Night Manor. Yes.
Night Manor.
Yes.
That did look really cool. That has a old school point and click, Friday the 13th. Sort of vibe. That one did come up on stream. Okay. I didn't get a chance to play it. I got to watch our producer Kato play it, and it looks very much up my alley. If I played anything from start to finish in this collection, there's a decent chance that it will end up being.
That's a fun one.
That game.
Yeah. Other than that, like I've got a couple of other things that are just kind of sitting now. Space Marine 2 and Star Wars Outlaws that I will probably wind up finishing Echoes of Wisdom and then go back and touch or finish up Outlaws. And then Space Marine 2 I'm finding, and it's funny because I almost pulled this for the news, but I was like, this is just for me. But Space Marine 2, the single player campaign just feels like it's like you need to be playing this with other people.
You do. I've been streaming. We've been streaming it every other week. And my colleague Rob Zachney, when the first time he played it as a squad was when we did it as a stream, and he said, "Well, this broke the game for me."
Oh, you can only do it with other people.
Kato described it this way: it's not a single player game with multiplayer. It's a multiplayer game with single player.
Right.
And yes, you can play it by yourself, but the bots are not particularly good. They're good at like re-resing you.
Yeah, totally.
They're way better than your human friends are going to be at resing you, is what we like. When we played it one time where Kato couldn't join us, and so it was the first time we played with a bot. And it was like revelatory. It's like, you didn't even have to say I'm down. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
they just
buddy's
run
over
over.
here. Just beep, I got you. Don't worry about it. I don't. One, I think the game is better on the difficulty tier just above normal.
Okay.
It's not exceptionally hard. You just live on a knife's edge in a really fun way. But it's not in a fun way if you're playing with a bot, because you just pull out one peg from what the team is supposed to be doing, and essentially the difficulty no longer functions in the way that it's supposed to. And I can imagine that even just the normal difficulty feeling a little soulless without other people.
That's what it feels like, a little soulless. And there was actually an interview I saw with the team being like, yeah, that was the concession we had to make because of the co-op. And maybe that's a little harsher than it should be, but it really, it's a combination of this game is designed for co-op, and also these are Space Marines, which don't show a lot of emotion. Like they're like,
oh, you don't say.
Yeah, so like the designers were like, look, it's really hard to have your like, hey man, let's just sit down and talk for a minute moments when you're always with other people with Space Marines, right? And there's not a lot of chance for somebody to just go off on their own alone, like in Space Marine 1, because we're designing it for co-op. So it was an interesting read about like, so this is where we wound up, this in this campaign. Yeah, I need to get Alex, you and Brad at some point when we got a minute here to jump in and play some of that together. Yeah, it's I think my son isn't quite in this 40K universe yet, but he would play it. He's play it. Got to peel him off of Helldivers and we'll get him into.
That's his particular flavor of space fascism,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like, we got to introduce all the different flavors.
Yeah, and there are many to choose from.
So many. The last thing I'll say here, I've just been putting a lot of time into Flight Simulator, and it's a weird thing because, I'm really excited about 2024, and it's making me go into 2020 and think about all the things that are coming in 2024 as I play it. Be like, why? I should just be waiting. I stopped buying stuff for Flight Simulator 2020. Just wait until 2024. But I can't.
No. I'm sure you've gone over this on people who listen to podcasts regularly, but like, what's your setup these days for Flight Sim?
You mean hardware wise?
Yeah.
What's your rig?
So, like, how detailed do you want me to get? Like,
go
get in there.
Oh, okay. So I've got the honeycomb flight yoke and a honeycomb Alpha, Bravo, and the Charlie pedals. So I've gone into the honeycomb.
Is it in the same seat you're in now, or do you have a set?
It's not here right now.
Okay.
Patrick, you can probably see this. People at home won't be able to see this, but I will move this camera over ever so slightly to zoom in the corner here. Which
I see.
There's a shelf.
I see. Yeah.
I see a lot of pedals.
I see some batteries. I see
over here. This is all Flight Sim stuff on this shelf over here. You can kind of see the pedals there. Those are yeah. Anyway. So that's that's the hardware I have, and then I ordered fairly recently. It's a different setup, another thing,
another holistic setup, like
no, just throttle,
Okay.
Just like it's a throttle. It's called TPM, throttle prop mixture setup for smaller planes like a Cessna. It's another hardware.
Wait, so you would put and I'm not trying. You would swap this out depending on the plane that you're flying.
I would use an alternate throttle setup, for the plane. And then I've got
that's a threshold. I feel like that is there's the universal setup. Yeah. I'm flying a plane, and then there's depending
plane
on
specific.
the model and that's incredible.
And then on top of that, I've got a external radio thing. Yep. So I can tune the radios.
Hardware. So that is like when you're getting like communicating with.
Air traffic control.
And that comes in through there as opposed to through your computer speakers?
No, it comes through the headset. It's so I can dial in the radio and the transmissions from that piece of hardware. And you could set a bunch of other stuff on it too, but it's COM 1, COM 2, your transponder, and a bunch of other stuff you could set on that thing. And then I've got 3 small screens that I can program to show any of the instruments from the plane on those little screens.
That's incredible.
It's like I would be building a whole cockpit if I had the time and money to do it for sure at this point. So
is that all connected like officially supported through Flight Sim, or is this fans doing
that's a great question.
the work?
So most of it is officially supported, but when you want to get into the weeds, I've got about 7 other programs I have to launch up with Flight Simulator to make it work the way I want it to work.
Okay.
One program's some of the extra hardware. One of them, I actually bought a Stream Deck just for Flight Sim so that I can have more buttons on it. And one of them interfaces with that program. One of them makes things a little more realistic. I bought a whole other set of planes. Like there's like a whole bunch of stuff going on. And I would say I'm like mid-tier, right? I'm like
not quite out of control yet.
I'm casual still, like,
but flirting with it.
Yeah, you're flirting with disaster.
But then there are the people who like subscribe to like, they subscribe to things that like things like VATSIM or other things that do real-time air traffic. That also they will subscribe to have people. I don't know the right term. It's not LARPing, but
this is a role play, air traffic controller for your flight,
for everybody's flight. So you're in worlds.
Oh, you're in a server, and so they're holy shit.
And they're like, it's like you want somebody to yell at you for getting something wrong and for like not taking off. Like you can pay someone to do that if you really want.
My God, that's amazing.
It's wild. I watched some videos. I watched Drew do it live once, or not live. I watched a recording of it. It's stressful, man. Like because they're like doing it pretty seriously. And this is people use these things for it's not just flight sim. There's other actual X-Plane and some other sim stuff that people use, but they use it to practice to get their pilot's license. As they still need their real time, but they use it to at home practice these situations, which is I get you want it to be stressful, but it's like such a weird, like coming in pretending to sit in a plane. And like Alex, you get this with the truck stuff. There's something like meditative about it, just like relaxing, like, hey, I'm just going to do this flight for like an hour and a half. Just do this. I put on some like podcasts and I'm like, just fly, and I'll fly from like Jersey to Long Island and like fly back. And it's cool because sometimes there's real weather in it, and so like sometimes the weather will change. And one of the cool things about 2024 is they're going to do I think they're going to cache 24 hours of weather, so you can actually, if you come home and you're like, I want to fly, but I missed the cool storm, you can.
I was going to ask, can you sync it up to the local weather in your area? So not it in does real time, but
it does in real time now.
Okay.
But you can actually go historically back, I think, 24 hours to be like, oh man, I want to fly through this storm, or like I want to go explore this weather pattern here. And I think that's in 2024. They're going to let you do that. Right now, you can dial in the weather, but you can't get I don't think you can get historical data on the weather in game. There's a lot of third party stuff. So anyway, that's what I've been doing and spending too much money on there. But anything else you guys want to bring up game wise before we pop over into the news?
I mean, I'm about done with I Am Your Beast. I'm like 2 stages from the end of that thing. So I just have to get a couple of S ranks that I currently do not have. But that game's fun. I will probably have a little more to say once I actually finish it. I will say the main thing that derailed me this week, they put Balatro on mobile, so my life is over.
I assume it's just Balatro. But
it is. And look, the thing is, if the interface on that was not good, it would kind of ruin the snappy fun of that game, but they unfortunately made the interface good. So it is very easy to play on a mobile device, and now productivity will be at an all-time low.
Does any of your stuff transfer over?
No. Okay. It's all the Apple infrastructure stuff, so I don't think they can pull in your Steam saves or whatever. But, it's just an excuse for you to go back and start unlocking all those decks again.
I never really got into it too much on Steam, and it's one of those things that I kind of want to try more. So maybe I will try this on mobile or
join
iPad.
Us. Become one of us. Join the blob. The Balatro blob.
See, I beat it once and said, I beat it. I beat the game.
Finished it.
No, you didn't.
No, you got it all.
No, there's all these decks, and you got to beat them all these difficulties.
No, it said I won.
No, have you unlocked all the jokers?
It said I won.
I don't think you've unlocked all the Jokers, therefore I don't think you've won.
The Joker is you.
I mean, that's true, but that doesn't really change things.
No, those games, like, I intellectually find them fascinating, but I'm so bad at them. Like, I'm so bad at them. And so I did my one run, which when I did it, I managed to superpower and supercharge pairs. And I'm just like bulldoze through like sleptwalk through the game. It was like, you know what? I'm never going to feel a high as good as this one, and I'm bad at these games, and so beat Balatro.
No, that's not true. You will feel that high again when you start actually breaking math, when they start just like literally having to put in like exponents into your score because you've broken the math so hard.
They can't fit this many zeros on the screen. All right, I think that's going to do it for our game section. We're going to take another break here. We're going to come back, and we got some light news, not too much, not too... It's been kind of a light week for better or worse. I'm going to say for better. We can all
days,
use
that's usually better.
Yeah. So we're going to come back after this break. We'll talk some news. So stick around. All right, we are back, and like I said, it's a fairly breezy news section this week. We could all use a little lighter news. Load
literally
right
anything
now.
At this point.
Yeah.
I'm drowning here, man. Anything.
So the first thing I just want to bring up, and this is not necessarily a news story, but the PS5 went up for pre-order on the PlayStation Store Direct. What are they?
PlayStation Direct.
PlayStation Direct. Patrick, did you try to get in on any of this?
I did.
Did you engage? How'd you make out?
I did. Well, if I'd known after the fact that you could have I could pre-order one right now if I went to the website. Maybe I wouldn't have sat in the queue.
Are they still up for pre-order? I think that's the story I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the PS4 Pro wasn't impossible to find either. I think it was a collision of everyone trying to get that 30th anniversary special edition that sort of created the glut. No, I don't care about that either. I just got the regular.
Would you have gotten it if you saw it was available? Yeah, you would have.
Yeah, but then I would have wanted to sell it, and I don't think I can do that.
You bought it. Well, I guess it depends. I don't know what your situation is.
It feels I don't know. Like
I would definitely look at you funny if you did that. Rightfully so. I would look at you askance and be like, "You suck." But you would be in look, unless Remap's paying for it, then you would be within your
I don't
fundraiser for Remap.
Yeah. But you know, I wanted
everybody's selling them.
Like I was laughing reading forum threads where people were like, I didn't mean to get one, but it was in stock when I got through the queue.
Yeah.
And I bought it, and then I looked at eBay, and now I'm gonna sell it. I'm sorry. Can I be forgiven in this thread? And people are like, no,
they're looking for absolution, right?
It's like it's $4,000. Like, take the money.
Yeah.
But like, how broken is the system that we're talking about
Completely
here, right?
broken.
This idea that like I accidentally bought one of these because I didn't think I would get to is like that is a stage of capitalism beyond late stage. That is like dying breath.
I think in Japan they're doing a thing where. I did see this news story. I didn't put it in the news though. You have to have a PlayStation account, obviously, but you also have to have been signed in for some length of time before.
For like 30 hours, you have to have logged a decent chunk, like a meaningful amount of time between. There was a long span of time. It was like many years.
But it's not like coming up. It's not like you can get in there now and do it. It's like the time.
There was
a
hard cutoff where you had to have had the account registered.
Yeah.
Something like 30 hours put in. And that was for something that was supposed to be an anniversary. Even if there are probably ways around that, like, look, people are going to find their ways to flip something on eBay. But I thought they should have had something like that in place. Plus, it just made it harder if you just wanted the regular Pro. Like, because by all accounts, you could just log in, pre-order it, log out, move on with your life, which is what I ended up doing for the standard Pro. I will say I haven't canceled it yet, but the anniversary portal was just sitting there.
Oh,
and I was like, well,
you did it.
I guess it's just sitting right there.
Yeah.
Well, I've thought about getting a portal before. The PlayStation 5 is my primary. I do a lot of gaming on PC, and I have that hooked up through Moonlight so that I can play that on my television upstairs, and that works really well. But lots of things, I'll get through work or whatever, are on a PlayStation, and I also connected I forget what the little Genki, I think it was called, on the Steam Deck, so that you can emulate PlayStation remote play on a Steam Deck. I did that. It seems to work okay, but people seem to swear by the Portal as being the most comfortable way to do that with a PlayStation. And I've hovered over buying one a couple of times because I'm big on the Steam Deck's the console I use the most.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anything goes like the way our house is set up, we just tend to congregate. We have this like kitchen family room space that kind of all overlaps over one another. So we all sort of congregate there a lot. And so the kids end up using that television for lots of different reasons. And so
You're kicked off.
I'm kicked off, and so I'm always looking for ways to just when they're watching Bubble Guppies or whatever on Nick Jr., how can I play the game that I want to play, because they don't require my attention. So it's in my cart for now. I'll see if I end up
in your cart or you bought it?
Well, I bought it, but you can still cancel the pre-order.
I
just haven't done that part. So
I did get in there. I was in the queue. I did the whole queue thing. I think I was like seconds away from the 30th anniversary thing, because I think when I got there, and who knows, maybe the site was just broken, it said add to cart. And then as I was like, what? No, I'm not. It's $1,000. I'm not doing this. And then when I was like, maybe I should just do it, then it was sold out. And who knows if I would have been able to pull the trigger. And I was doing the same thing of just like you just said, Alex, I don't really want one.
Yeah.
But if it's available.
What are we doing here?
Nothing
$1,000 for a familiar shade of gray. Right?
I've expressed this before. Look, I'm a collector person. I have certain things. I've gotten better over the years with it. The FOMO went away almost immediately. After I was like, oh, okay, I didn't get it. I didn't think I really wanted this. It's okay. I wasn't going to flip it. I was actually going to see if Brad wanted to buy it, because Brad was interested in the 30th anniversary controller. So I did he had a lot of trouble getting on, and he had problems. So I actually did wind up getting one for him and one for me, which I might just give him both of them at some point also. Because he had trouble logging, checking out. And I don't know if those things are available anymore. Those might be hard to get. Just the controller, the PS5 regular 30th anniversary edition controller, not the what do they call their elites? I forgot their super controller.
I don't know, because I've never bought one.
yeah, right, yeah, not that one. But I wound up getting one from Walmart and wound up getting one from PlayStation. I will say the fun thing was I happened to be at my computer. I didn't even know this was dropping. And I just happened to be there for work, and there was some fun doing it with the community. People are in, where are you in the queue? I'm in there. Did you get in? I got it. But yes, I got my, gosh, man, this thing is expensive. I got the Pro, and look, Nextlander is going to pay for this. So because this is an expensive.
Our mysterious benefactors have paid for this PlayStation.
Do I want a Pro? Yes. Do I want enough to buy a Pro absent a business expense? No.
Yeah. So absent a business expense. So would I have gotten one on my own? I don't know if I would at this point. Maybe when the game came out that I was like, oh, you know what? I do want that better on this, whatever. But between the drive, the stand, the extra memory, and the console, you've racked up a bill, man. I
didn't do any of that.
Okay. Well,
just the console.
Stand probably the most I don't know, but I do put mine vertically, so I was like, okay,
same.
Stand. Extra hard drive space. I think that's getting up near essential. I think. I usually have a decent amount of games on there, especially with the kids.
Just slap an SSD in that other one, you're fine.
I bought that same SSD we had for our PS5s. That same one. The drive. So for some people, that's going to be completely optional. So some people are going to be like, why would you get the drive? In my head, this thing is not complete without a drive. It just is not. It's not the console it could be without a drive. Will I put a disc in this thing? Probably never.
Yeah,
this is not a rational thing.
You're right. Yeah, it's like we know you're supposed to be born with an appendix, but it has no actual use anymore.
Totally.
So you do feel slightly incomplete, even if that totally useless organ is taken out of your body. I understand what you're saying, and I'm the one who still occasionally plays discs and things. Right. But let me tell you, the disc drive in the PS5 is not that great. That player is not that great.
Alex, I discovered this recently where I was rewatching. It'd been a long time since I'd watched Alien 3, and so before Romulus came out, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pull out the Alien quadrilogy, and that I got on Blu-ray, and I'm gonna watch Alien 3, and it's like the disc wouldn't like boot on my PS5. Turns out that for some reason the PlayStation 5 specifically has a problem with the Alien quadrilogy set for some, like I found it on Reddit. People are like, yep, if you like quit out and boot out into this other app and then like boot into a different, like you can get it to work. Anyway, like long story short, there's a deluxe Blair Witch Project set that comes out in early November that has the original like assembly theatrical cut that was shown at film festivals before they did some minor alterations to the film for what became the theatrical release of the movie. But it's one of those Blu-rays that is one of the European. It's like it's not Shout Factory doing it, so it's in like
it was like Eureka or something. Yeah,
I forget. Second Sight, I think, is the
Second Sight.
company.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to buy like a UK disc, which is finally gonna get me to buy. They sell them at an AV place near me. It plays UHDs and it's got a modded Blu-ray drive where you just press a different button to change the regions.
Yeah.
And that will just get me off a PlayStation 5 as anything playing a disc. Because I don't collect game discs anymore. I'm like Alex, I'm broadly collecting like obscure genre.
Weird, obscure
films.
horror, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's the physical collection I have. I've mostly moved off games to that degree. But I get the impulse. I've seen a lot of people that otherwise are like, I'm not going to put anything in it. But what if I want to put something in it?
That's the point.
I get that impulse.
It is not that you will want to ever. It's that you should be able to.
Yes.
Should the mood
be able
strike
to.
you?
Yes.
Well,
it's also
what?
It's pro.
Yeah.
It's called
Yeah,
a pro console. Like the idea that a pro console offering a best in class experience requires you to get a USB dongle like disc drive feels weird.
It feels like it should be the most complete. It should have like extra USB ports on it, like it should be like it's pro. I'm trying to think the last thing I put in my PS5, and it's probably like Skylanders for the kids or something like that, or an Astro. I think I have an Astro physical, not the most recent Astro, some other Astro thing that I have, because I saw the box there and I was like, which Astro is this? Is this Playroom? Like, why do I have a
Playroom? Wouldn't have a box though.
Yeah,
and
no.
Rescue Mission was a VR game.
Yeah, it might have been the VR one. I should go check what the box is, because I saw it there, because I don't have a lot of game boxes anymore. And I was like, and then when I saw it, it reminded me of like, why am I getting this disc drive? But yeah, the disc drive came. So now I have a disc drive and the thing sitting here in the stand is waiting for a console.
How long were that disc drive? Every week, is the disc drive still in the box?
No, I'll set it up and throw the box away. But like, it's so silly. It's so dumb. Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad to hear that they're still in stock for people who want them, because I do really hate that. I was talking to Brad about it when he was in it, and we were both of those. I mean, I don't know if anybody who really likes it, but like, we're both like, this sucks. Like this feeling that
this
you're
process.
like, yeah, this sucks. It's a reason I don't use eBay. Like, I only do buy it now on eBay. I hate this. I hate the competitive nature of like bidding, and like somebody's got to get in there and like, what? Oh man, I'm gonna lose. It just doesn't appeal to me. I don't like it.
Once we lost standing in line outside of a Walmart to get a PlayStation, like I did that stuff all the time when I was younger, and when the last one I did it for was the Wii, because after the Wii, you kind of didn't need to. There was enough online infrastructure that stuff kind of went away. But I mean, I was in college when the Wii came out. Like I had friends we were just going to a car in the parking lot to drink and then getting back in line. And I remember when the Walmart guy came out this was even a better process where you didn't have to stay until 6 a.m. They came out at midnight if you were in line.
Yeah,
they
gave
had
you a coupon.
A set number of tickets, and like come back in the morning and come get your thing. And my dirtbag friends are standing next to me, and only one of the other ones wanted a Wii. He's like, hey, do you guys want tickets? He's like, oh no, we're just here to hang out. He's like, you're just here to hang out?
But that I feel like
that was fun. The camaraderie of the line.
Yeah.
Like kind of like
it was a communal experience.
Yeah, or like when you stood in line to get like, like concert tickets or stuff, like that was before my time, but the equivalent sort of things where you would just like, that part, you were around people. I'm sure for you, Vinny, like being in a Discord, like that's the closest you can get.
That's the closest. Yeah. But you also know you're just up against an industry now of people who are looking to flip these things, have bots that are ready to go, have an army. Like standing in line, like you got people who paid other people to stand in line occasionally, or like you got people to hold spots occasionally. But there was like work. It's like the filibuster. There was work to be done. You had to put the physical energy in. You couldn't just fake it.
You had to sit there in that line if you wanted to be there day one for the Phantom Menace. You had to work your nights at the Star Wars line if that was going to happen.
So there is a little something that is just like and everything just feels like it flips immediately. Like there's I don't know. That's a whole diatribe. I don't need to get into it. But anyway,
no one should buy one of these.
That's the other thing. Is like it's also for like a thing that's like
the least necessary upgrade maybe in human history.
My wife was like, "So when is your new PlayStation coming in?" And I was like, "I don't know." I think it's like November or something.
Whenever they send it, I guess.
There'll be a box that shows up.
Yeah, I don't know. She's like, "Wait, aren't you like super excited for it?" I'm like,
What's the new game that's coming out for it?
Yeah, right. It's like, the
PlayStation 5 Pro, it has no games.
Yeah, and again, this is the thing. I know that it's a position of a work expense. So, like, trust me, I'm not sure I would even be talking about this if it weren't like gonna like Nextlander is gonna pay for this. The other thing I was thinking, like, this is a very old thought, but you and Alex, Patrick, probably have this mentality of like, what if they send me a pre-release disc? What if?
No. When's the last time that happens?
What if Atlas is going to write like Persona 7 in Sharpie and then send me a disc, a pre-release disc? How am I going to play it?
I'm trying to remember the last time I got a pre-release disc for a game, and I legitimately cannot.
It was probably some sports game. I feel like EA or somebody was like the last ones doing like, here's FIFA.
But it wasn't like just like a week early retail copy, like a burn disc. When was the last time a burn disc came across your desk?
Well, would
probably the last time I had a desk.
Yeah.
I was going to say like the last real vestiges of that were like the 3DS. Like, and that wasn't a disc, it was cartridges, but like, like remember like in the old Quick Look room, like they had screwed into the desk there and stuff like that. Like that's the last. I think Nintendo stuff and handheld specifically was some of the last times I can remember getting things that are like, oh, this is only going to operate on this device and not on the one I have at home.
I think it was probably around the 360 where it like really switched to just all digital. Like that's kind of where it went away. Anyway, PlayStation 5 Pro.
Buy yours now.
Yeah.
Or don't.
Or don't.
Whatever.
Yeah. Like I said, we have some other small news bits here. Some people might have seen the weird. This is a very small story, but I thought it was funny. Sony's weird tech error that put like advertisements behind the games on your homepage instead of the kind of key art that was there. This caused like a kerfluffle for about 5 minutes until Sony was like, this is an error. This isn't supposed to happen. But we do live in a world where everybody's like, oh shit, here we go. It's happening.
Hit the button.
Totally. So Sony says a tech error with the official news feature on the PS5 console has been resolved. There have been no changes to the way game news is displayed on PS5. So
please stop yelling at us.
Yeah. Again, it was pulling like news and getting rid of the art behind the game when you hover over a game in your menu, and suddenly like a YouTuber or somebody would be back there. So in some cases there were images of like an advertisement for another game would be there. And they said, no, that's just wrong. But now we know they could do it. Now, was it an error, or were they like, they're not going for it, Jim? Pull it down. We've been made. So I assume you guys didn't even see this. It probably got fixed so quickly.
Yeah, I wasn't even online. The bigger thing for me with Sony was that one night where all of the PlayStation Network services were down. That was way more apocalyptic. It seemed like everyone was just like, I can't play my games, what the fuck?
Helldivers did it.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears quickly here to another fun. A lot of these stories are like...
They're goofy.
HoloLens. Now, HoloLens is a thing that is near and dear to my heart because it was, I think it was seeing them do Minecraft with HoloLens during one of those E3s. Do you remember that?
Right.
That was one of the demos for HoloLens that I remember. There weren't very many of them, to be fair.
The HoloLens, it was like the Minecraft table that looked kind of cool, and they were like building Minecraft on a table, and I was like, that looks cool. Well, HoloLens is going to be discontinued. Did you know HoloLens 2, by the way, did you know HoloLens 2 was still in production?
No. Because Microsoft stopped talking about HoloLens like it was actually a consumer product and not just a thing they were trying to sell to various, let's just say,
military
weapons manufacturers.
Yeah.
A long time ago. So I'm not really up on the wheelings and dealings of HoloLens since they stopped trying to say this is a gaming device.
Well, apparently, according to this story here on Video Games Chronicle, Microsoft told Upload VR, which is the person reporting the story originally, it's still fully committed to its deal to sell the U.S. Army augmented reality headsets based on HoloLens.
Oh, good.
So, yeah. So
I wouldn't want that deal to go bad.
Could you imagine? It's like, look, I don't really have no experience with HoloLens, but imagine that said Kinect and how terrifying that would be to be like, no, you should not be using the Kinect for anything except a goof.
The only people who use this thing now are ghost hunters, okay? That should tell you the level of technology we're talking about here.
Yeah. And like museums use it to be like, hey, look, you could dance on the floor and it's a fish, and like the fish will swim away from you when you move your feet. HoloLens 2, get
the AR revolution has just not manifested yet.
How is that PlayStation? Apple. How is the Apple VR?
The AR thing, VR thing. I don't know.
I don't hear about it. Does
anyone buy those things? Is anyone actually using them?
I don't know.
No, it didn't sell very well, and it seems like the practical applications of like a high-end VR headset the real race seems to be, can people crack, glasses or something of that nature. And honestly, the Vision Pro, I did I didn't do a demo of it. Oh, Rob Zachney did, and he was actually pretty impressed by the fidelity, but he was like, it hurt my neck after 15 minutes. And for $3,500, why pay for a headset that's going to hurt your neck? Whereas opposed to like the MetaQuest, like I think Meta's an abominable company, but like the MetaQuest is a really slick piece of hardware if you're going to buy any VR headset. That Microsoft deal though for the HoloLens, they're partnering with Palmer Luckey on
of course.
that military contract.
What is his horrible name for his thing?
Palantir?
Yeah,
I'm a fucking dirtbag.
Yeah.
This article says that contract could be worth up to, they previously said $21.8 billion over 10 years.
Wow.
Great.
$1 billion. Also, the article goes on to say, you mentioned Meta. They have a deal with Meta, or they're tied. They have said their ambitions for mixed reality is tied to kind of Meta, and their MetaQuests, whatever stuff. I am so VR illiterate at this point that I feel like in some ways I feel like it has moved on. In some ways it feels like it's just in stasis. It's still like the same players kind of.
Yeah, essentially Meta took over. Like there's a pretty robust ecosystem on Steam, and on the Meta store. I mean, that all used to be called Oculus before they retired that brand, but it's it's not going to take over, but I think it has firmly established itself as a like fairly successful niche product. It's just not. It's like not replacing television. It's not replacing screens in the way it was pitched before, but it's hard to compete with $300. I mean, like that's the thing with the MetaQuest. Like,
and that's the new MetaQuest 3S, right? That's coming out. I think
so. Yeah,
in like 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, that's like a cheaper version of the. I forget whatever one I have is like the high end one that came out a year ago.
Okay,
is the one I have, and it's really nice. Like if you just want to dip in and out of VR, the way to do that is you just plug it into a USB charge it for 20 minutes and then play Beat Saber, and then you get to put it back in a drawer.
So I have the PlayStation 2 VR PC thing, which I've really enjoyed. I'm so glad that thing works and seems to work okay, and like that lets me get my fix of like, oh great, I can keep up a little bit. So that's HoloLens. That's Sony's weird ad thing. Another one in the this was a thing. So there's a story reported here again on Video Games Chronicle about Guerrilla Games' next major release, and I don't know if you guys, Alex, we talked about Horizon and where it kind of winds up their latest Horizon. Patrick, I don't know, are you aware of like the kind of cliffhanger on the last Horizon game?
No, I really loved the first one and then fell off the second one like 15 hours. If you want to spoil it for me.
No, there's no need to. Just to say there's a cliffhanger. But apparently their next thing is not going to be Horizon 3 or whatever they call it. It's their online Horizon thing, which I forgot existed. Apparently that was announced in December 2022 and set in the online Horizon universe with a new cast of characters and a unique stylized look. And that's pretty much all that was said about it until it has been confirmed that most people are going to be working on this at Guerrilla Games. And I don't know, does this thing even come out? Like, is Sony feeling like maybe we step back from the online cliff a little bit at this point?
Hard to say, but I also feel like if they're not already prepping a full-on Horizon sequel, then they need something for just, brand recognition out there probably in the next couple of years at minimum.
Well, the Netflix show got canceled, right? Like they were, prepping a Horizon Netflix show, and then, I think they got canned sometime earlier this year.
They've got that remaster coming out, I think, end of this month, which is great. I love the Horizon series. I don't know if I need an online Horizon.
Seems like a tough sell. Game. It's. I mean, that for all I understood why Naughty Dog and Sony backed off The Last of Us. What was that actually? Was it called Factions, or what was the?
Yeah, I forgot.
But like the multiplayer in the original Last of Us was awesome. Was really good. I don't even particularly engage in a lot of multiplayer games, but I played quite a bit of that after release. And not that it necessarily deserved its own sprawling live service, but it was clear that Naughty Dog and even the Uncharted multiplayer stuff was more popular than you would have immediately assumed. So at least there was a proven Naughty Dog seems to understand how to take their existing single player games and do decent multiplayer out of them. I know that Guerrilla has a history with Killzone, but that's a long time ago at this point. Who knows how much staff is carried over, what lessons would even be applicable to Horizon. It's not that it can't happen. It just that makes me queasy. It makes me queasy given everything else that's been going on.
Yes, and right, I like the world, but I like exploring it in a single player way. But that's also me, and that's kind of how I like to play games. Just quick credit there to Jason Schreier, who reported that for Bloomberg is where that's all coming out of. And the quote there is, Horizon Online is their next product, not whatever the third single player game looks like. So, I don't know. Good news, bad news for Horizon fans. For me, it's a little bit of a, I'll take the next Horizon game.
Yeah.
Alex, this story here, we both saw this one, this new California law, basically kind of going in the direction of saying, look, if you're going to say purchase a game when really you're just purchasing a license to play the game, you need to be more explicit in your marketing or your when at your point of sale.
Well, it's the reality we all face now with the digital future, which is to say that you are buying licenses, you are not buying physical products, and so for a long time this notion has been that if you are buying a digital product, they say you're buying it, but it's a license that theoretically could be revoked at any time, if the platform goes offline or something like that. So yes, this is just clarifying that, if you want to tell people they're buying digital goods, then you need to emphasize the fact that that is a license. That license can be revoked.
So this is California Bill AB 2426, signed into law recently by Gavin Newsom. Goes into effect, or is expected to go into effect, we should say. Who knows? January 1st, 2025. And I'm trying to find the actual quote here for what it does, but I'm going to quote from the Polygon story here. The law is expected to go into effect right January 1st, preventing companies that operate digital storefronts from using words like quote purchase or quote buy unless the company is clear that it's selling a license, not quote unrestricted ownership interest in the digital good, end quote.
A lot of quotes in there.
Yeah, well, I assume the quotes are the language from the bill. So this notice will have to be, quote, distinct and separate. So will people get around this? I bet.
Yeah,
I bet
they'll try and find a way.
Yeah, because like, what does that language look like? Like, hey, click here to buy a license. Nobody wants to put that.
No,
right?
It's all going to be in like as much fine print as it possibly can be, and they are going to do absolutely nothing to beyond the absolute letter of the law they have to adhere to.
Yeah, they'll just have buttons that say add to cart and the button that says checkout, and never say like, oh, and then like a 1,000-page EULA when you go to checkout. That's like, hey, just a heads up. It'll never say buy now. This stuff has been coming up in places. I don't know if you saw, Patrick, we talked about it a while ago, that kind of online campaign after The Crew was getting pulled down, or what? Yeah,
I mean that's what first came to mind. Thinking about this story was stuff like this is a step in the right direction. I would love to see there be more formal legislation that establishes some combination of like a requirement for an offline mode in some capacity for a game that promises like online servers, or at the very least a change in how copyright operates, so that in the same way that fans have tried to bring back games like The Matrix Online and things like that, like if the companies don't want to do it, there should be a method in place for others to step up and all that stuff to operate, just because a corporation doesn't see a commercial aspect anymore. Maybe that's a step too far, but that's certainly the kinds of stuff that I would like to see in the future.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be the case here. This is not adding any of that. This is just kind of adding language to the front end of this, or saying that there's a problem with misrepresenting what you're getting when you hit at the point of sale.
Right.
So that's the California law. All right, I think we're going to end here on the news with probably the softest piece of news here and the most light pice of news here.
Literally, you breathe on this thing, it dissolves.
which is that Keegan-Michael Key, who is the voice of Toad in Super Mario Brothers, and hopefully has bought many houses off of that, went on and said, one thing I can say about the second movie, which we all knew there would be another movie, is that it's a little broader in scope, and where it takes place is very intriguing lore and the Mario world. They're going to find some really fantastic Easter eggs, and it's been very exciting so far.
Cool. That's what I go to the cinema for. As many fucking Easter eggs as you can throw down my fucking gullet.
That's why you love Ready Player One. That's why you're like the biggest Ready Player One fan. You're just like, Easter egg it up. Let me make me an omelet.
Cinema is defined to me as me pointing at the screen going, that's fucking Birdo. That's it. That's why I'm here. Pay $30 for a goddamn movie ticket so you can pander to my stupid fucking ass.
Did you see the Mario movie?
Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty Easter eggy.
Yeah, that's kind of all it has.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's pretty light. It's a pretty light movie.
It was
It's
fine.
It's fine. It's no Sonic movie.
It.
Yeah.
It's just not good.
I would agree with that. I didn't think the movie was very good, and yet found myself like oddly touched, like standing, like I saw it with my kids, like in the theater, and like my kids doing the same sort of pointing at, like, now granted they're, like 7 and 3 at the time, where like they're pointing at the screen going like Mario Kart. Yeah, that's the right thing to do at that age, is point at the screen and go Mario Kart, and that's all you need to be entertained. The fact that like across like that got me, but that's like a pretty low bar. They're just the flashy colors and long-standing characters on the screen as opposed to a particularly compelling story.
I also, I'll just say it, I think that the character designs were just like a little off in the wrong way. I understand that you had to shift them a little bit so that you were marketing very specific merchandise for these set of characters and not the ones directly from the video game. I just didn't think they made them cute enough if they were going to go that direction. I thought it was just like, you literally did the least amount of work possible. You just made his dimensions slightly different.
It's a little slimmer. Like, little, like, yeah. The quote goes on to say, there is a little bit more here. I feel like what they've done creatively is they've really widened out the universe, and that these characters live in, and we're going to meet some new folks. We're going to meet some new folks that are old favorites, and some folks that I think are really deep cuts. But because of the way the story's laying itself out right now, those characters are going to be very intriguing.
What does he consider to be a deep? That's the thing though. Like Mario is so broad.
Yeah.
What does Keegan-Michael Key consider to be?
I could see him being.
Cut?
I could see him
Waluigi.
No.
Wario. That's possible.
It's all Super Mario Brothers 2 stuff. Just it's all wart and like the sun. Those are the deep cuts, right?
Look, we're past the era where I don't expect actors who appear in movies like this to have ever played the games. Like I believe Keegan-Michael Key has probably played some Mario games. Like that's very believable to me.
I guess that's true. That's true.
It's possible that what he's talking about is stuff that is like a little obscure by like mainstream standards, but like a little obscure by mainstream standards is just pulling from the same brand Bible. It's just going a few pages deeper into a long laundry list of fucking characters that just show up and stuff. And it's not like very many of those characters have definition. Like, it's not like saying, oh, we put Dr. Mario in the movie and it's because he's with Dr. Mario. Like, what? Okay. Like, what do you do with that? Like, it's not because if you see King Wart show up in this, like, what is the definition of King Wart? What are you doing with that character? Nothing. It's nothing. It's just a likeness that you're pulling, and then you are getting a celebrity actor to do the Danny DeVito voice or something. I don't know.
Okay, that's a good casting. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think they go back into Mario's Brooklyn? Like, you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's how you start it.
Because I think that's where it ended, right?
That is where the movie ends.
Yeah.
There's like sort of a convergence between the two worlds.
So you think or are we going like when we say deep cuts? There's just spitballing here. But are we going into a multiverse? Because that's where all movies are, where we have Mario Tennis, we have maybe Mario's become such a celebrity in the Mushroom Kingdom, he's hawking everything, and that's where you get Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, and he's just putting his fucking name on anything. Like,
listen, if you get me through that method to Mario Teaches Typing,
yes,
then you will have found the thing that wins me over.
Mario is missing. That's the one I remember from a kid.
Yeah, what if it's Luigi just like going through these to be like, oh, Mario, what the fuck is this? Be like, he's sitting there with like cucumber slices on his eyes and being like, what do you think pays for this, Luigi? Mario Teaches Typing, come on!
Yeah, he's like Krusty the Clown now. He's just selling his brand to everything that will have him.
Used to be real. Used to care. It's the good life, Luigi. Enjoy it. I hope my hope for this movie, and they don't need any of Vinny's hopes because
let's
they
be
already
clear,
have
hopes here are very loose. Yeah,
$1.4 billion or whatever they have.
They don't need to hear anything.
They can buy a hope. Is that they're a little more daring? I thought the first movie was very very played straight. Like they didn't take a lot of risks in it. So I hope they are a little more daring, go a little bit outside. Get a little edgy. Get a little edgy. Is what I would hope. But yeah. That movie has April 2026. Who the fuck knows where the world will be in 2026, right?
Yeah, we're making some very lofty predictions here.
I'm sure people just watched a debate recently. Like, you look at that and you're like, oh, right, yeah, we have an election in 5 weeks? Like,
I mean, we think we do, yeah.
Who knows?
As far as I know.
Yeah. Who knows where things are going to be in a year and change. That's going to do it for the news. We're going to wrap this one up. Patrick, you're going to head to the movies?
Yep, I'm going to the club.
What? I thought you were going to the movies.
Only the most online people are going to get that, Patrick.
And the people that do will quietly chuckle to themselves.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Still nothing.
Yeah.
You're
Patrick,
better off, Vinny. Don't.
Okay.
The longer you can go without ever picking that one up, you're good.
Are you a popcorn at the movies guy?
No, my wife is.
Okay.
There was one, we went to, for our 10th anniversary, we got dropped the kids off at my mom's. We went downtown, got like a nice hotel, went to a nice dinner. I think Jordan Peele's Nope was out that weekend.
Uh-huh.
And the closest theater that we could go to our hotel, they didn't have traditional like concession stands. You went up to a series of tablets and punched in what you wanted, and then you would type your seat or you'd scan your ticket, and then they just bring it to you. And so my wife was like, she always says, I don't think I want popcorn. Mm-hmm. And she's lying. She does want popcorn. She just doesn't want to spend the money on it. And then she thanks me when I get it anyway. And so I was like, why don't you go check out our seats, go to the bathroom. I'm going to try and figure out this popcorn situation. And the only thing they offered was jumbo. I don't know why. Yes. They were so small. We're talking like
you could live in it.
Yeah. You could, yes. And so I went and I sat down, and she asked like, did you get popcorn? I was like, no, the system was being weird. I'll go check it out a little bit later. I was lying. Uh-huh. And I don't know, 5 minutes later, the usher comes in carrying a circus-sized level of popcorn.
A fucking torso-sized bag.
Yeah.
And she's like, that can't be us. For us, it's like, well, it's not for us. It's for you.
Nice.
And she takes it. And we went out to dinner. We went to a bar afterwards. My wife is sleepy when she's sober. And so has like a third of this popcorn bucket. And then I look over and just...
During the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Amazing.
It's like, and she woke up and she was fine for the rest of it. But man, that's a good fucking movie too.
That's a pretty good movie.
Nope is a great film.
All right. We're going to wrap this one up. I just want to quickly say here that we've got a bunch of stuff going on. We've got the Watchcast going on. We've got our horror, we mentioned it before, our horror Watchcast going on over on Patreon.
Wait, what else are you watching?
We've got a couple of anthologies going on. We watched Creepshow.
Okay.
We've got
just Creepshow 1, not Creepshow 2. Creepshow 2 is the one with the racist statue.
Yeah.
We did Creepshow 1.
We did Creepshow 1.
But that is 2,
the less
right,
racist
Alex?
of the two. I believe that is Creepshow 2, yes.
We've Alex, how much has been put up
it's fine.
so far?
I don't mind just saying it because we're going to post the schedule this week anyway. But yeah, so like the next one up is Trick or Treat, as we talked about before. And then after that, we're doing VHS, the first one.
Ooh, that's the best. I'm excited for the new one. The new one's a sci-fi tint, but the first one is the best of the ones they've published.
I think 2 maybe has an argument, mostly because of the one that involves like the demon baby one. I thought that was
that one
might be the best thing anywhere of the ones I've seen so far.
Do you remember? Was it the one before this that has the Radama?
Oh, spoilers.
Do you remember the No, this you're not going to watch this one.
Okay.
This is a like VHS 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
But did you see that one that is Radama the Rat King?
Yes, I think I have seen that one. I know I've seen the first 2. I think I've seen the third one. I don't remember actually. Okay. But we're watching the first VHS, which is largely very good. Yeah. And then we're rounding out the month with a sort of best of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror.
Excellent.
Scariest.
Yeah.
Good lineup.
So you can check that out over at patreon.com/Nextlander. You can see Never Been a Better podcast where Austin Walker and Dan Reichert swing by. We talk some 40K with Dan, which is a lot of fun. A bunch of stuff there. Patreon.com/Nextlander, where you can find a tier that's right for you. There is one tier there, though, that gets their names read on this here show. And I'm going to read those names for you right now. Starting with 10 Toes of Jury Han, Sean Miller, RRE, Infelicitous Rips, Park, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deidre, Queen of the Ring, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, Bunny Fiend, Jad Rita, Statics, Fantasticasm89, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Randy Terribly Mysterious Alderson, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. Thanks again to all our mysterious benefactors, and thanks again to everybody for joining us and supporting us over at patreon.com/Nextlander, watching our stuff. Patrick, you've got some stuff to promote.
Yeah, you can follow most of my hijinks over at remapradio.com, where, yes, my Shocktober list of 31 movies is there available for you to check out amongst many other things. And then I also run a parenting and gaming newsletter called Crossplay, where I kind of write about the weird world of trying to manage children and technology and screen time and video games and Roblox and all that. And that's over at crossplay.news.
Awesome. And how often do you wind up getting able to update that?
I write 2 articles a week for Crossplay. So,
man, that's a great value.
It is. I agree.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You can't get that.
No.
You can't get that kind of
in this economy. Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh, thank you so much, Patrick. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week again for folks tuning in and listening to this around the time when this comes out. Our schedule is going to be a little bebopping around. Again, best of luck to Brad as he kind of deals with what's going on over in North Carolina. But Brad may be back later this week. He may be back next week. It all really kind of depends on what's going on down there. The least of his worries, I would say, down there. So best of luck to everybody dealing with that stuff. Thanks again, Alex. Thanks, Patrick. And we'll be back next week.